France are the favorites. France have the best player in the world. France have won 18 of their last 21 knockout matches at the World Cup. On paper, this should be straightforward. But here's the thing, almost nobody outside of France actually wants them to win. And the reason why goes far deeper than football. This is why the entire world is cheering against France at the 2026 World Cup. The match nobody can ignore on the 9th of July 2026 in Boston, France face Morocco in the quarterfinal of the World Cup. And this is not just a football match, it is a rematch of the 2022 semi-final that broke Moroccan hearts. It is a meeting between a former colonial power and the nation it once ruled. It is a match that millions of people across Africa, the Arab world, and the global south have been waiting 4 years for. When Morocco and France play, the result matters to people who have never even been to either country, because this game is carrying the weight of history, identity, and unfinished business all at once. And right now, most of the watching world is on one side. The colonial wound that football cannot forget. To understand why billions of people outside Europe want France to lose, you have to understand what France and Morocco actually are to each other. In 1912, France formally absorbed Morocco into its empire, imposing what they called a protectorate, a polite word for colonial rule that lasted for 44 years, until Morocco won its independence in 1956. For those 4 decades, France controlled Morocco's government, its economy, its land, and its people. And France did not leave quietly or generously. The cultural and economic scars of that era run deep in Morocco to this day. So when Morocco and France meet at a World Cup, it is never just sport. In 2022, when Morocco knocked out Spain and then Portugal on their way to the semi-final, the entire African continent celebrated because Spain and Portugal were also colonial powers who had dominated African nations. And then came France, their former ruler, the country that had told Morocco for decades that it wasn't equal, that it wasn't enough. And when France beat Morocco 2-0 in that semi-final, the grief in Rabat, Casablanca, and across the Arab and African world was not just about a football result. It felt like history repeating itself. Now, in 2026, Morocco is back. And this time, the wound is fresh. Macron's words that the world did not forget, and then there is the French president himself, Emmanuel Macron, who made something much worse. In 2021, just 1 year before that 2022 World Cup, Macron caused a diplomatic explosion when he publicly said that France would offer, and I quote the reporting on his words, no repentances or apologies for the abuses inflicted on North Africans during decades of colonial rule. He then cut the number of visas available to Moroccan and Algerian citizens wanting to come to France, accusing their governments of not cooperating on immigration. In other words, the president of France told North Africa, "We wronged you, we won't apologize, and we'll make it harder for you to even visit us." And then he flew to Qatar to cheer on France in the semi-final against Morocco, sitting in the stands while his team beat the nation his country once colonized. For Moroccans and millions watching around the world, the image was impossible to look at without anger. The players France calls its own here is perhaps the most complicated and painful irony of this entire match. Look at the France squad. Look at the names. Kylian Mbappe, his father, is Cameroonian. His mother is of Algerian origin. Marcus Thuram, son of the great Guadeloupe-born defender Lilian Thuram. Ibrahima Konat, born in Paris to parents of Malian origin. Ousmane Dembele, his family roots traced to Senegal and Guinea-Bissau. These are the sons of Africa, wearing the French shirt. And the painful question, one that millions of people across Africa ask every single World Cup, is this: why do the best players born of African heritage end up representing France, while the African nations they come from are left to build with what remains? The answer is not simple, and it is not entirely France's fault. These players were born in France, raised in France, developed in French academies. They are French. But the system that produces them, a French football machine that has been built in part on the talent pipeline from African communities in French cities, is a system shaped by history, by migration, by the colonial past that brought millions of North and West Africans to France in the first place. When France win with this squad, the world does not always see a French victory. Sometimes it sees something more complicated, a victory built on roots that were never fully acknowledged. Morocco's 34-match miracle, and then look at what Morocco have actually done. Since that painful 2022 semi-final exit, Morocco have not lost a single international football match. 34 games, 25 wins, 8 draws, not one defeat in nearly 4 years of international football. At this 2026 World Cup, they swept past Canada 3-0 in the round of 16, with Azzedine Ounahi scoring twice and Soufiane Rahimi finishing brilliantly in stoppage time. Their goalkeeper Yassine Bounou has been immovable. Their defensive organization, led by the brilliant Achraf Hakimi, has frustrated every opponent. Morocco have not conceded more than one goal in a single game throughout this entire tournament. They are not an underdog story. They are a genuine footballing force. And the world wants to see them rewarded. The weight of a continent, when Morocco plays France on July 9th, they will not be carrying only their own flag. Across Africa, across the Arab world, across communities in Europe and beyond, millions of people who have no Moroccan passport will be watching with their hearts in their mouths, willing those red shirts forward. In 2022, the scenes in cities from Dakar to Cairo to Paris's own suburbs, where Moroccan and North African communities celebrated every Morocco victory as if it were their own, showed exactly how far this team's reach extends. French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin put 10,000 extra police officers on standby before the 2022 semifinal, not in Morocco, but in France itself, because the French government knew that this match meant something explosive for the millions of people of North African origin living in French cities. That is the scale of what this fixture represents. And for those millions of people born of Moroccan, Algerian, and Tunisian heritage in France, this is the match where identity becomes impossible to divide. Some will wear both flags, some will feel pulled apart, and some, like the young man interviewed by Time magazine in 2022, who said simply, "I will cheer for Morocco because this is a unique opportunity for Africa, will make a choice that has nothing to do with passports and everything to do with history." Why France are still dangerous? None of this means Morocco will win. France are ruthless, organized, and led by Kylian Mbappe, a man who now has 19 World Cup goals, just one behind Lionel Messi's all-time record of 20. If Mbappe breaks that record against Morocco, in this match, on this stage, it will be one of the most extraordinary individual moments in the history of the tournament. France have kept clean sheets, managed games brilliantly, and won every match. They do not care about sentiment. They do not care about history. They care about winning. And they are very, very good at it. But here is the truth. Football is one of the only places in the world where history can be rewritten in 90 minutes, where a nation that was once told it was not equal can walk onto a pitch and prove to the watching world that it is better. Morocco beat Spain. Morocco beat Portugal, both former colonial powers, both giants. Morocco ended both of their World Cups, and standing between them and the semi-final now is the one nation that Morocco has never beaten at a World Cup, their former colonial ruler, the country that stopped them in 2022, the team managed by a coach whose president refused to apologize for 44 years of colonial history. This is not just a quarterfinal. It is the most loaded fixture in international football right now. And that is why, on July 9th in Boston, the whole world, or nearly all of it, will not be cheering for France.